Britain's most famous battlefield, southwest to the ancient village of Catsfield, along the 1066 country walk before swinging north to the Elizabethan hamlet of Penhurst and journey's end at Brightling. It's a route populated by the ghosts of thousand-year-old warriors and a Georgian squire who had a very pointed sense of humour. And there'll be some nasty shocks along the way. Who's this and what's he doing here?
All right, well, according to my information, it's over that way, so shall we set off?
We go. Lead on.
First, the short hop across a battlefield. We were heading for Battle Abbey, a Benedictine monastery. We were going to find out why it was built by William the Conqueror and why he didn't live to see it completed. Our Lord Tivers was up for it, but Samantha was off to a poor start. She'd been up all night, lap dancing.
You sure this is the right gear to be wearing, Tivers?
Well, you have to wear what you're comfortable with, and I'm comfortable in this gear. So, cowpats
Yes, you have to dodge
allowing.
the cowpats, and the wellies are good too. They're not ideal for walking, it has to be said. And you're wearing wellies too, Samantha, which is an improvement on the block shoes that you were wearing before. But do you get out and about much?
Yeah, I do. Do a lot of walking.
Do you really?
Yeah.
And of course, I suppose the dancing keeps you fit, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, extremely.
Well, the outfit's looking pretty combat gear. You thought perhaps that was ideal for today's walk.
Well, I did a stint in the Territorial Army once.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Must have been a bit of a bonus for the boys, isn't it? What exactly did you do in the Territorial
weekend
Army?
under canvas.
Tried to join the
50 men.
military police.
And did they accept you?
Yes, they did.
Excellent.
We all know that ancient armies battled here in 1066, but that was just the start of years of turmoil and bloodshed. Local historian Jeff Hutchinson told us that Norman troops met stiff resistance in neighbouring towns and villages. But on the day of the battle that everyone remembers, the Saxons should have stayed in bed.
So there you are, 1066, you're looking over there, best fighting force in Europe facing you. You're knackered. You're absolutely knackered. This is no fun.
It was a hell of a battle.
It was a hell of a ding-dong, but it wasn't the be-all and end-all. I mean, this whole area was in total chaos for many, many years after, as the Normans tried to get a solid hold on this part of the country. And although William was crowned King of England Christmas Day, 1066, it wasn't until many, many years later that the whole of England came totally under Norman rule.
So tell me about William first. So how did he die?
His horse stumbled and he jumped forward on the saddle and brings tears to your eyes, doesn't it? The pommel of the saddle
Really?
debagged him or did a rather nasty thing to it.
That eye-watering accident meant that William never lived to see his abbey completed. The Conqueror had built it after the Battle of Hastings, not as many think to glorify victory, but in penance for all those who had died, including his opponent, Harold.
This is the spot, this is where Harold actually fell. This is the very spot where he died.
We know this for certain, do we?
Yes, this is as certain as you can get because this was where the high altar of the church would have stood.
We picked up the 1066 country walk from Battle. We're on our way to share cutlery with a cannibal at one of the two churches in Catsfield. First, we passed the historic Battle Abbey School, where Lord Tivers and Lady Samantha found young scientists at work in an ancient ruin.
Don't run away. What are you young ladies doing then?
Yeah, what are you up to,
What are you up
girls?
to?
We're finding the average of daisies
Daisies?
in the lawn. Yeah.
Oh, there's some sort of measuring square, is it?
Yeah, you throw an object and then you put that called a quadrat down and then you count the number of daisies and then you find the length of the lawn and then that's how many daisies there are. Yeah.
And when you've got that valuable information, what do you do with it then?
I have no idea.
Throw it away?
We had the first of a few disagreements about which way to go, but the start of our route, the 1066 country walk, is well marked. Even we couldn't get lost. Our local historian Jeff Hutchinson told us we were heading into the old industrial heartland of England, once peopled by navvies and nutty squires.
So how come you're so interested in the area?
Well, I just love it. I mean, I was born in this area. I find it a fascinating area to live in. And along this walk, we're going to meet one or two really interesting historic points, you know. But my main obsession, really, is a fella called Jack Fuller, a squire.
Fuller?
Yeah. We'll find out a lot more about him as we go through this, believe me, Nick.
Okay.
Our first destination, Catsfield, was named after a Saxon tribe, the Cati. It was one of the first villages to be pillaged by the invading Normans.
How are your feet holding up in those boots?
Oh, they're killing me.
Are they? Well, just a fairly long walk. It's a couple of miles, that, so. But wellies aren't really the best thing.
No, but I suppose they're pretty good for your calf muscles.
True.
Walking up
Okay,
and
this is
down.
the church we're going to have a look at. We can stroll in and have a look round.
Trip like this, you look ridiculous, all of you.
Oh, look at this stained glass. Look at the colours in that. It's fantastic.
You have to get some in your castle when you get it.
Oh,
Yeah,
look
well,
here,
one
look.
day, one day.
Sacred to the memory of Annie Lady Brassey, it's a famous name around here. Died at sea 14th of September 1887. Committed to the deep at sunset in latitude 50 degrees 50 minutes south, longitude 110 degrees 35 minutes east.
Actually, she was a most remarkable lady. She was a Victorian traveller and collector who was a best-selling author as well in her own lifetime. She only lived to be 48 years old, but she packed an awful lot into that short lifetime. Immediately before her death, they'd been in Borneo and they'd visited the famous bat caves of Borneo, which you may well have seen in sort of different television programmes. And it was she spent too long in there, got a chill, contracted another fever and died on board the ship, the Sunbeam, and was buried at sea at this particular point on the voyage.
Kathy Walling, curator of Hastings Museum, had brought some of Lady Brassey's cosmopolitan collection to the church which commemorates her death.
Yeah, this is a pipe from the Dayaks tribe, who live in Borneo, in Sarawak, who did. Yes, so it's a pipe for smoking, and there are the remains of some quite interesting-looking grass inside.
What else we got here then? Come on.
Well, this is the one I like, and I'm sure other people will be interested as well. This is from Fiji, and fairly innocuous-looking fork, but it is a cannibal fork, and it is particularly for eating human flesh. And,
No.
and I wouldn't like to say which part
And
you
for
would
piercing
use particularly.
eyeballs, obviously,
Piercing eyeballs,
because
whatever you like,
it's
I
sharp bullets on
imagine.
there.
Quite nice and
Do you
sharp.
think she had to indulge in that? And why didn't they eat her?
I rather hope not. I mean, as far as I know, they were still cannibal at that stage, but I don't imagine they went around eating wealthy European visitors. They were more interested in selling them a few bits and pieces.
This whale's tooth pendant from Fiji is what your well-dressed cannibal wore to the barbecue. And inflation must have been bad in India. This was for counting your small change in rupees. And these Iron Age pots are from Cyprus, but we were about to find evidence of a modern Iron Age in the heart of Sussex. We were approaching the halfway mark. We had to find the footpath which would take us the 3 miles across the Vale of Ashburnham.
What the hell's going on here?
Well, I'm finding the way. See, look, I'll tell you what, look, you're supposed to do this, all right? So this is where we are, and this is where we're heading over here.
No, we want to head over that way.
We'd be taking the footpath from the hamlet of Stephen's Crouch over the Vale of Ashburnham. The contours told us it would be a bit of a climb, but halfway across at Tent Hill we'd be rewarded with a view which was once a favourite of the old landowner.
Jack Fuller, squire of this whole area, very wealthy man, extremely wealthy man, and squire of the village of Brightling.
Was he as
area.
barking as Tivers here?
Well, he was called Mad Jack Fuller. All right,
yeah.
but let's get that into.
They call Loony, they call me. Not
Yeah,
Mad.
well,
That's different altogether, isn't it?
But you see, he was called Mad Jack, but I mean, the thing is, that was a term of endearment, really, because he was born into a pretty mad age.
Being rich and mad, he of course qualified as an MP. Once he was thrown out of the Commons for being rude to the Speaker, calling him the insignificant little man in the wig.
He came back from there, from Parliament, and said, right, I'm now going to start enjoying my life, which he did. And he started to build all these cranky buildings all around his estate.
Right.
And
Follies and things,
so,
follies.
yeah, follies and things, which we're going to go to eventually when we
Oh,
get
they're all
there.
down here, are they, in the
Oh,
valley?
yeah, we're all down in the...
We were about to
they're all
find
up
out
on
how
the
you
side.
can meet the strangest people when you're looking for Mad Jack's follies.
Of course, when you're wandering around here, you never know who you're going to bump into.
We're halfway on our walk over history in East Sussex on the way to the medieval village of Penhurst. That's me, Nick Knowles, our resident historian Jeff Hutchinson, monster raving Loony Lord Tiverton and his friend Samantha. We're on the trail of Mad Jack Fuller, a 22-stone Georgian squire with a huge appetite for fun and food.
He had a plate of veal, a plate of haddock, he had 2 plates of tongue, 3 plates of mutton, 2 plates of roast pig, the wing of a duck and half a lobster. After that he had cheese, nuts and oranges, washed the whole lot down with sherry and port. Believe me, I mean, they used to eat.
Yep, they like their food and they like their art. Jack Fuller commissioned the artist Turner to set his easel at exactly this point, Tent Hill.
Vale of Ashburnham.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
This was the scene Turner romanticised in his famous painting, The Vale of Ashburnham.
Any snakes here?
No, I don't think
No
so.
snakes?
Right.
Tivers, is this the most activity you've had standing up?
This is it. My year's exercise.
Lord Tiverton bought his title so he can't sit in the House of Lords, but he still fights general elections for the Loonies. He doesn't want to win. He finds today's Parliament far too noisy and busy.
I think it's a sort of a rowdy place now. In Fuller's time, it was even worse. I mean, they'd relieve themselves behind the Speaker's chair. They'd
In
sit
Parliament?
there eating nuts and
Relieve themselves of
oranges and God knows what. Very boy, yeah. I mean, Pitt was in the middle of an important debate and he felt sick, so he went outside the door, kept the door open with his foot, spewed up, and then walked back into the chamber.
So he didn't miss anything?
No, didn't miss anything, and he carried on speaking for about another 3 hours. I'll see you soon.
We said goodbye to our local historian Jeff Hutchinson, who had an important historical assignment, though we just might see him later on.
Where's my map gone? It's under his...
A short walk up the road to Penhurst and time suddenly stood still. There's a church, a barn, a manor, and that's about it. This Elizabethan hamlet hasn't changed in 500 years. There are just a few more headstones in the churchyard.
This is Harry Corbett's grave,
Oh,
What?
1925, 1982. So
What the dun 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 dun.
Steptoe and Son.
Steptoe
yes,
and
Right,
Steptoe
yes.
and Son.
do you know, in the hotel last night, I was watching a film of his.
Right.
One of his early films. Isn't that
Yes.
weird?
Yeah.
Harry Corbett, OBE, actor.
And why is he buried here then?
Because he lived in this parish, and his family still do.
In the manor house, now a retreat for clergymen, Tivers found a piano normally used for hymns. And we discovered that the Reverend Ken Barham, vicar for 30 souls here, looks after 500,000 people in Africa. He's the Bishop of Rwanda.
The Archbishop of Canterbury asked me to go out and help out there. So I started doing it some years ago, and last year they elected me to be their diocesan bishop. So.
Wow.
All the time I'm trying to raise funds to help the people like this. We've got 600,000 orphans in Rwanda, and 70% of the population are widows from the genocide in '94.
Wow.
So a lot of our work that we do, my wife and I work together trying to raise funds.
From the tranquility of Penhurst, we entered what was once Britain's industrial heartland.
Friendly hound.
Where are we now then? Come
Well,
on.
it's
For centuries, these quiet backwaters once rang to the sound of iron being forged into cannon for the Napoleonic Wars.
This cottage, where?
this Furnace Cottage.
We came off the footpath to investigate the story behind the name on the map, Furnace Cottage, and the ironworks nearby.
Go up to the house and see what it's all about.
Right
See
there.
if they can tell us what it's.
Right there.
Yes. What do the people in this area mind if you're just wandering and...
John and Janet Wallace have been living here for 20 years. Their cottage was once an ironworks. The furnace, fueled by local charcoal, extracted metal from a soil rich in iron ore. Water off the hills drove the bellows.
This is the water runs under the house?
Yes,
to run on the house
from the culvert,
when the wheel used to be
and it
there.
goes straight under the house. With a look at the beautiful arch.
Wow.
Wow.
And I mean, even now, water goes pouring through there when we have floods.
Wow, that's
and things.
amazing.
What was the water wheel doing then?
Well, that was driving a pair of bellows And you had the big furnace there, which charcoal and iron ore, and it just resolved the iron. And then you cast guns and shot. Here's a cannon. It's a very small one. I think it's called a falconet, so 1 pounder.
Is this the sort of thing they used to make? The sort of thing they'd make here is they cast cannons?
Right up, much bigger guns here they used to. This is a very small one.
This is obviously a furnace here.
This is a furnace, but this is just a small one. There's a much bigger one which you must go and see, and I think there's somebody from English Heritage there at the moment looking around to assess what has to be done there. If you're going up this way, you just go through that gate and continue over the stream.
Go on, Tivers.
I don't like this. Ooh.
But the 300-year-old iron industry collapsed last century because of poor roads and cheaper coal in the north. Vivian Code from English Heritage told us how they aim to preserve what they can of the Sussex Iron Age.
I mean, this was one of the most important ironworking sites in the Weald. Did you know that in the 16th and 17th century, this whole area was the industrial heartland of Britain?
I had heard that.
And this great dam here was built in order to contain the water.
That's a dam, is it? All that wall?
That enormous wall there is a dam. And the water was culverted. I don't know whether you can see with all this vegetation that's grown up, but the water was culverted through the dam. And of course it worked the wheel. Which then worked the bellows and actually kept the blast going to heat the fire.
Has English Heritage any plans to develop this site or
no, but what English Heritage is hoping to do is to try and put in place some repair work here.
English Heritage are going to buy a strimmer.
Then we headed north, closer and closer to the spirit of Mad Jack Fuller. We knew he'd built a folly to help him win a bet, but first we had to find it.
I can't find it on here at all.
Usual old rubbish.
Yeah,
Look,
it's absolute rubbish. Look behind
throw
you.
it away.
Right over there.
There it is, there. Come on.
Of course, there are moments when a map doesn't work. Okay.
Get up there. Go on. This is good practice for when we do a jungle walk.
Forge on, everybody. Forge on. View, hello. Oh, mind the thistles. Here we go. This is it.
This is it.
I'm not quite sure what it is, but this is the sugar loaf, apparently.
The sugar loaf! Oh, what a pleasure it has been to me. I still remember that day in my London club. I was taking a drink with my very good friend Charles Simpson, and I claimed that I could see the spire of Dallington Church from my estate. Well, Charles disagreed, and a sum of 50 guineas was placed to settle the matter. Of course, when I got back to Brightling, I found I couldn't see the damn spire, could I? It was down in the valley, out of sight. So, I had my own spire built, which you can see from the estate.
That's cheating. That's cheating. Isn't that cheating? That is cheating. Isn't it cheating?
Have you seen my other buildings on the estate?
So you are Mad Jack Fuller, are you?
Well, I'm beginning to think so, yes.
We were thinking the same.
You do look strangely familiar, it has to be said, don't you think?
Yes, he did look rather like our resident historian, Jeff Hutchinson. As we headed for another of Mad Jack's creations, we found he still has followers among today's celebrities.
Mad Jack Fuller?
No, this is Jeff.
Yeah.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Great to meet you.
You're a Jack Fuller fan, then? Is that why you know about the pub and everything?
Oh, yeah. No, for years. He's fantastic. He is the best.
He was barking mad.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He did his own thing his own way. That was what's so great about him. He was a blunt-speaking, straightforward piss artist who enjoyed life, who did what he wanted to do, had the money to enjoy himself, and he was a fantastic character. He was also a very kind man.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's very easy just to sort of knock away and say, well, he built this, he did that, and wasn't he silly? But he was tremendous. He's one of the great outsiders, and we should cherish our mavericks.
Absolutely. And there's a modern day, Mad Jack.
There's a modern day Mad Jack.
Lord Tiverton.
Hello to all Lord Tiverton. Jeremy Beadle.
He's the current Mad Jack. He's Monster Raving Loony Party.
Oh, actually, there is a chap who set himself up as the Jeremy Beadle.
Loony party, did he?
He did, really. He got 16 votes. I believe it. As many as that. He changed his name by default to Jeremy Beadle. The man was absolutely bonkers, but not as bonkers as you. We need bonkers people.
Correct.
There are far too many grown-ups in the world. What we actually need is people with a sense of fun and the ridiculous.
This ridiculous town may have been built so Mad Jack could see his vast estate.
Extraordinary place, though, don't you think?
I'm all for follies.
Do you like this?
Yeah, I do. I like the makeshift monkey ladder. I call that a modern day monkey ladder in this day and age, but I don't know what they would have called it then.
You'd think you'd have stuck a roof on it though, really, wouldn't you? Should we move on? We've got to get on and see the last place before we run out of light.
We'd come 8 miles. Tivers and Samantha were on their last legs as we approached Journey's End at Brightling and the church where Squire Jack Fuller had his own pew and barrel organ. And he'd left something else.
Well, believe it or not, this is Mad Jack Fuller's tomb.
No way.
This is where he's buried.
This man is now my idol, Jack Fuller.
Really? You've never seen this before?
No, his own tomb?
Well, apparently, yeah. I mean,
outrageous.
I mean, in view of the stuff that we've seen of him so far, I suppose it's fitting, really, isn't it, that he should go for something as flamboyant as this, don't you reckon?
I'm going to measure it, how tall it is, and I'm going to have one myself 1 foot taller.
Now, speak of the devil.
25 foot high, sir. 25 foot high.
Mine will be 26 foot high.
Are you really buried in here?
You know, they say I'm in there, seated at a table, on an iron chair with a chicken meal in front of me, a bottle of claret, with my top hat and tails. Huh.
Is it
What
true?
rot.
It's not true?
No, sir. No, I'm afraid it is not true.
It's your end and it's our end too. It's the end of our journey across the countryside, so end of our walk through history. So
thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Jeff, whatever.
I'm just going down to Jack Fuller's for a pint.
What a very good idea.
Good idea.
Goodbye to you.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
So what did you
That's
make
the
of...
end.
Yeah, that's it. So what did you make of your walk? Because, of course, you said you'd never been out anywhere before.
I haven't, no.
You've done this much walking in one go?
Not in my total lifetime.
What, all added together?
Yeah, all added together, yes.
But the thing is, you'd have such good
This
calf
is it.
muscles now. You'd be able to go out with as Lady Tiverton, won't you, darling?
That's it, yes.
In his stilettos.
This
So it's nice to be out of the town for a while.
Absolutely. Fresh,
Yes,
clean
but I'm
air.
pleased
Recommend
to
it
get
to
back in
everyone.
town again.
So you'll
Been a
come back,
lovely
but
day.
you're not going to.
Lovely day. And
No, my pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I had no need to do it again.
Thank you very much. What do you say we join Mad Jack at the Jack Fuller Arms?
Splendid.
Okay, we'll see you
Couldn't
next
be
week.
better.
Bye-bye.
Next week, we're in Hampshire with 2 journalists who'll be investigating these farcical characters.
You're probably wondering who we are.
You'll just have to wait and see.
And we'll hitch a lift to help us on the route of an old railway. But right now, we have a lordly roller to get us up the pub. Cheerio.